Hey everybody, welcome back. And today we're going to be canning some black-eyed peas. I'm going to use basically a hot pack method. I'm using hot stock, which I made. I just did this morning. I did 3 smoked ham hocks, pulled the meat off of it, had some corn, celery, and onion in there. Got most of everything out of there, just keeping the broth, which I'm gonna put over the black-eyed peas before we can seal them. I've got my lids in here heating up so the seal's nice and soft. And I've got my canner over here with 3 quarts of water. Like I told you in my other videos, always check your canner to find out how much water you put in. Some say 3 inches, some say 3 quarts or an inch. Everybody's is different. You have to go by what your canner says. So today I've already cleaned the jars, got them washed, and I've dipped them in hot water, just like I'm doing my funnel here. Just something I've always grown up doing. So I'm gonna just start filling these. I soaked the beans overnight, so they're nice and full. And you're going to pack the jars, not pack them, but fill them with 1-inch headspace. So I'm gonna go through and get all the beans in. And the 1-inch headspace is gonna come right about to the bottom of this rim. So just fill it down to that section. Get all these filled. That one I did way too much. And this is just a good thing to do, so you always have fresh beans on hand. If you have dry beans, you're gonna have to soak them and then cook them a while. This way they're already done. You don't have to worry about it. It's a lot less expensive than buying them at the store in cans. And you know what you're putting in them. You're not putting in all kinds of preservatives. The only preservative I'm putting in here basically is some salt. I'm not even using that as a preservative. That's just being used as to season it. Now I used 4 bags of dried black-eyed peas. And they were on sale for, I think, 50 cents a piece. That's why I decided I was going to do this today. Because I looked at the cans already done and they were 89 cents. And I'm gonna get way more than that for my money here. Now I showed you I pulled out the meat from the smoked pork ham hocks. And I'm gonna put that, just a little piece in, help with the seasoning. It's already gonna have the stock and all the seasoning from that. I didn't put a lot of salt in that because I'm gonna can that up also. And I didn't wanna put salt in this, salt with that, and get them over salted. So I'll finish filling these up and I'll be back. Okay, I had to get another jar. We ended up with, from the 4 bags, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 jars. And now I'm just going to put some of this smoked pork in there. Okay, I'm gonna save this leftover. I've got some more I'm gonna do a little bit later. So I'm gonna save that for those. And I'm gonna put a half a teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt. You can use any salt you want, except don't use iodine, anything with iodine in it, because it's gonna turn your fluid a brown color and it just won't be, I mean, it's still, you can still eat it, everything, but it just doesn't look as good. And this is just for flavoring. This is not for preservation. The pressure cooking is going to do that. This is just to give it a salted flavor. You can leave it out, totally leave it out if you don't want to put extra salt in and salt it when you open it. Cut them all. And now I'm going to get a ladle. Do I have my ladle out? Oh, it's already in there. So now we'll just ladle some hot liquid into each. And remember, keeping the 1-inch head space. And you can totally do this with just water. I just prefer to use this so I have more flavor when I'm utilizing them. Okay, now some of these have a little bit too much, so we're gonna have to adjust those. There we go. Just wanna make sure we have the right amount of head space. A bit more out of here. All right, now I'm gonna take my debubbler. We're gonna go through all of these and we're gonna make sure there's no bubbles down in there around the beans. It's gonna cause a little bit of settling, so you may have to put a little bit more liquid in after we do this. But it's a very important step because that can help grow bacteria with the air bubbles down in there because they use the oxygen to grow. So we want all that out. This is also my magnet to get my lids out. And I always put them in there for about 15-20 minutes. Unfortunately, some of them are sticking together today. Get these out. Oops, first, sorry. Glad I caught myself. I got some white vinegar. We need to wipe off all the tops of these, or there's a chance that these lids won't seal. And since we're using this stock that had the smoked ham hocks in it, there's going to be a chance that there's some fat juice up on here. So we just want to clean these off real well. All right, so now that they're all cleaned on the top, we can start getting the lids and putting them in place. Now, since we're doing quarts, we're gonna cook these for 40 minutes. If we were doing pints, we'd use 50 minutes. So you do have to check that on with your elevation, where you're at in different parts of the world, and make sure you're using the right one. I'm gonna put a link to the information so you can look up your area and all the canning guidelines, and I'll put that down below in the description. Follow the canning guidelines. And also I'll put it on my website, which is just gregs-kitchen.com. It'll be on every one of my recipes on my website and on these videos. So you always follow the National Canning Safety information. Don't go by just a book that, canning book that someone put out, or your friend told you or mom told you, and I need another lid. Let's soften that one up for a bit. Well, that one softens up. I'll go ahead and put on these. You're gonna put the rings on just finger tight. So once it stops, just a little bit nudge with your fingers. You want to be able to have a little bit of air getting out when it's cooking. And since I'm pressure canning, I don't sterilize the actual rings. They're not going to come in contact with the food. They're going to be in the pressure canners, and so they'll get sterilized there too. But remember, anything I say and do, this is just the way I do the canning. Always go by the safety guidelines, and I'll put that link below for you. It's real important. Once you've been doing it a while, you won't have any problems, and you'll be able to just whiz right through it and not even think about it. All right, look at one more of these. And I'll need a ring for him too. Okay, well, I guess you get to see where I store all my extra rings. My old cracker box. Because you're not going to leave these rings on once you get done canning. You're going to take them off. So you're going to have plenty of rings all the time, especially if you buy brand new jars because they all come with it. I'm just checking to make sure they're finger tight. And then I'll place them in the canner. Like I said, I've got a Presto canner, and it has 3 quarts of water, what it calls for. It also has a line here, and it looks like some of it's steamed out. So I'm going to finish it back up to the line. There we go. And then since we got these hot jars, we're doing hot pack the hot liquid hot jars right into the hot cooker. See, we've got 8 there. What do we got? About 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 more. So I'm gonna get my second spacer. You can stack these. Put that right on top. And we'll put these 8 right on top. Now, if I only had like 3 or 4 left, I would put some empty jars in there with some water. Okay, so if I only had a few jars, I wouldn't put I put them in here, plus I put some empty jars. I just don't like them possibly bouncing around in here. This worked out perfectly. Okay, so I got all 16 in here. Gotta get them off the side a little bit. Okay, so I got 3 quarts of water in here. I'm going to bring it up to 11 pounds of pressure. And get my lid. You're using a pressure canner with a gauge. You bring it up to 11 pounds of pressure. If you're using one with just a 10-pound weight and no gauge, then you'd bring it up to 10. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. I got the line up the arrows here. Seal it. And I'm gonna crank it up to high and bring it up to full pressure. Once it starts steaming, I'm going to let it steam continuously for 10 minutes straight. And then I'm going to put the weight on it and bring it up to 11 pounds of pressure. And I'm going to keep adjusting my temperature. Just keep it at 11 pounds of pressure or slightly above. If you go down below like 8 or 9, even if you weren't using the gauge and just using this, you actually have to start over because you have to have 40 minutes of the actual pressure time of that at that temperature. So I'll be back after we get it all steaming after 10 minutes, and I'll show you where we're at. Okay, so we're just about 10 minutes of steam, continuous steam coming out, as you can see. I call it my genie. If you're not old enough to know that, you're too young. But this is genie coming out. I've got about 10 seconds left. Once the 10 minutes of full continuous steam has gone through, I'm going to put the pressure gauge on it. Bring it up to 11 pounds of pressure. Once it hits 11, there's our 10 minutes. Once it hits 11 pounds of pressure, then I'll start my 40-minute timer. I'm not starting it now. I gotta get it up to the temperature, or up to the pressure. So I put that on, I still have it on high. When it gets to about 5, I turn it down to about 7 on my dial, so it doesn't come way up to 13, 15. So I'm just gonna watch that closely, make sure you're always in the kitchen watching that. I had told you before about the home canning guide. It's the USDA home canning guide. I downloaded it for a Kindle edition. You can also buy it, I get it on Amazon. But there is a website, and I'll put that down below in the description. Also on my website, which is gregs-kitchen.com. On every one of my recipes for canning, I will have that on there, and you can go there and download it for free. Always follow their directions, and make sure you go by their directions for the pressure and for the altitude for where you live. So I'm just gonna watch this now. I'm almost up to 4 or 5 pounds of pressure. As soon as it gets up to 11, because I'm using a gauge, it'll be 11. If you were not using a gauge and just a weight, it'd be 10. I will set my timer for 40 minutes. You see I got 3 extra quarts of pork stock from doing the stock this morning to put into the beans. So I'm gonna can those later with some chicken stock. I'm gonna put those in the refrigerator because I'm not gonna can them today. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. I'll have all the chicken stock so I can do it all together. So I'll have the pork and chicken. So I'll be back in about 40 minutes, maybe a little bit more, and show you what we have. Okay, everybody, the time went up 40 minutes, and then I turned off the heat and let it just sit. It finally, the pressure relieved, and I took off the weight. I twisted the lid just a little bit, set it a little cockeyed on here, just to let the jars try to get a little bit of equilibrium with the temperature outside the pot. That way when I take them out, they don't have any leakage and seepage. So it's been 10 minutes. Let's take these out. Let's see what we have. I don't see very much at all of any kind of staining or broth for anything that might have overflowed on these. The beans did swell up a little bit higher, but they look great. So remember, from the dried pinto beans, and we're using pints, you're going to cook them for 40 minutes. If we were doing quarts, we would do them for 50 minutes. Get a hot pad here. Let's get this metal container out. It's hot. There we go. And I'm not sure if I showed it on the video, but just after I put the lid on it, I realized I didn't put vinegar in here. And I like to put vinegar in, helps keep the any whiteness on the jars that comes from the minerals in the water. You don't have to, you can wipe the jars down when you're done. I just find it easier to do it at the very beginning. So I did pop the lid off for it to even start to pressurize, put the vinegar in, and then put the lid back on. Now while it's hot and moist, I'm going to clean off some of these jar lids that have little juice from the ones above. There we go. We have, what, 16 jars of pinto beans. So one bag makes 4 jars, because I did four bags. So at 79 cents a piece, these 4 right here cost me 49 cents. And this, if you bought one can, it'd been 79 cents. So it looks, you get 3.5 for free. So give it a try. I'll put the recipe down below. I'll also put the link to the National Canning Safety Guidelines. Always follow those. And I'll see you again on the next canning. Bye-bye.